Jack suddenly sneezed at home, and his intestines popped out of the wound. His wife Lisa panicked and called 911. When the fire department arrived at the scene, they were all stunned. When the paramedics asked Jack how he was injured, he pointed at his wife Lisa and said she did it. Lisa rolled her eyes. The captain asked Jack if he had undergone any surgery recently. Jack said he had an appendectomy last month. It seemed like the sneeze had reopened the wound. Lisa sneered. "It's clearly your fault for lying." It turned out that the two had been arguing about divorce, and Jack had a peculiar condition. Every time he lied, he would start sneezing uncontrollably. Lisa believed that Jack had brought this upon himself. An angry Jack shouted, "I've never loved you." But as soon as he finished speaking, he sneezed again. Lisa suddenly froze in place. Didn't this prove that her husband was lying? She regretted her words and wanted to apologize, thinking she might have misunderstood him. At that moment, the paramedics rushed over and carried Jack onto the ambulance. Lisa ran over to apologize, saying she didn't want it to end like this and that they could start over. Jack also sincerely promised not to cheat on her again, but the next second, he sneezed loudly. The seemingly absurd family drama had just come to an end.
Liar!
On the other side, a passenger plane crashed in a port near the airport. The cause of the crash is still under investigation, but the airline is refusing to take responsibility at this time. They cited the ongoing threat of a terrorist attack as the reason for prohibiting passengers who had already landed at the airport from disembarking. 8 hours had passed when Athena, who was on duty, suddenly received a report that someone was causing trouble on the plane. Athena rushed into the cabin and found a passenger with his mouth tied and covered with tape. The air marshal claimed that he had attacked him because he was not cooperating, but the passengers around him immediately exposed this lie. A passenger immediately raised her phone, as she had recorded the entire incident on video. It turned out that the passenger was simply trying to retrieve his father's remains. He pleaded with the security officer to let him go to the cargo hold, as his father's body might be decomposing in the sea. However, the security officer suddenly attacked him violently, claiming he was disobeying orders, and knocked him to the ground. Athena, upon learning the truth, was speechless. Athena angrily tore off the tape covering the passenger's mouth. She harshly questioned the air marshal. "Who gave you the authority to detain passengers?" The air marshal replied that it was the CEO of the airline who ordered that no one could leave until the incident was investigated. Athena erupted in anger. "Your badge belongs to the Los Angeles Air Marshal Bureau. Now tell me you're following the airline's orders? I don't care how much you've been paid by the airline, but I'm certain the passengers are safe now." Upon hearing this, all the passengers in the cabin erupted into cheers and applause. When Athena bent down to untie the passengers, the air marshal tried to stop her again.
Do what? You place your hand on my shoulder again, we're gonna have a big problem. Now, you said that this customer was causing a disturbance. Well then, I'm putting him under arrest for disorderly conduct. I'm arresting everyone on this plane. They're in my custody now. You are all under arrest. And that means that you are all leaving this plane.
The passengers erupted in enthusiastic applause, cheering for Athena's righteous act. Athena thought justice had been served, but she didn't know that a family storm was quietly approaching. When Athena returned home, she was horrified to find her daughter Denny had swallowed an entire bottle of painkillers. She desperately called out to Denny but got no response. The paramedics arrived and immediately took the girl to the hospital. The girl fell into a deep coma, and her organs began to fail. Athena, who was usually strong and capable at work, was helpless. She could only hold Denny and pray silently. Denny was in critical condition at the hospital, and her life hung in the balance. Athena was filled with guilt. She regretted neglecting Denny because of her work. Fortunately, the rescue was timely, and the girl was out of danger. After waking up and seeing her parents' worried faces, Denny confessed the truth with guilt. It turned out that Denny's suicide attempt had a deeper reason. There was a girl named Layla in her class who, just because she had spoken to the boy she liked, led her classmates in bullying her. She even said that someone like her should die. Upon learning the truth, Athena was furious. She comforted Denny, assuring her that as a police officer for over a decade, she would ensure no one would ever bully her again. At that moment, Child Protection Agency personnel arrived and suggested resolving the matter through the agency, but Athena refused on the spot. Her daughter had almost died, and she had no reason to reconcile. The next day, Athena went to the school gate and found Layla based on the photo, but she didn't act immediately. Instead, she followed Layla to the estate where she lived. It was clear that Layla came from a wealthy family, but thinking of Denny in the hospital bed, Athena barged in. Layla saw the police and hurriedly hid something in her bag, realizing that Athena had come to avenge Denny.
Complain.
I'm sorry, was the music too loud?
No, see, they called to say some skanky teenage. She nearly died. What do you have to say to that?
Layla became even more arrogant and even insulted Denny. This completely enraged Athena.
You can't do that!
Oh no? I saw what you hid in your bag.
She immediately found a bag of drugs in her bag. Athena mercilessly took her back to the police station. However, Layla's parents soon arrived. They used their power and influence to threaten Athena to release her. Otherwise, they would use their connections to get her fired. As for the drugs in Layla's bag, they were fake evidence that Athena had fabricated to frame her. They believed that Denny's suicide was his own fault and had nothing to do with Layla. Athena was furious. She couldn't even protect her own daughter. What kind of police officer was she? Athena said that Layla had become this way because of them. No one was taking her away today. However, the next day, the police chief called Athena into his office and expressed his dissatisfaction with her actions. The chief said that protecting her daughter was understandable, but her actions clearly raised suspicions of abuse of power. Layla's parents are prominent local lawyers and will sue you and the police department. To avoid escalating the situation, the chief decided to temporarily reassign Athena to administrative duties. However, none of that mattered anymore. After all, Layla was locked up in a juvenile detention center, and Athena had finally avenged Denny. Just when Athena thought everything was settled, an unexpected street altercation once again dragged her into the gray area of law enforcement. The incident occurred while Lisa was driving with her children on a road trip. Two police officers pulled her over, claiming she was using an illegal license plate, and demanded she exit the vehicle for a search. However, Lisa insisted she was a sovereign citizen and not bound by federal law, refusing to cooperate. The newly assigned officer, Matthew, tried to defuse the situation. He struck up a conversation, saying, "My name is Matthew. My uncle also lives in Montana and is a sovereign citizen, but this is Los Angeles." Matthew said that all she needed to do was open the window and show her driver's license. But before he could finish, Lisa interrupted him, mocking him as a bully with a badge. Matthew was instantly enraged and warned he would smash the window. Female officer Athena reminded him there was a child in the car, but it was too late. By then, Matthew had already smashed the window and was forcefully pulling the girl out, causing her to scream in terror. Enraged, Matthew tried to force Lisa out of the car. Just as Lisa turned to grab her bag, Matthew mistakenly thought she was reaching for a gun and fired without hesitation. The bullet hit Lisa in the abdomen, and blood instantly stained the seat red. Athena angrily pushed Matthew away. She had her colleagues carry the injured Lisa out of the car while calling an ambulance. Seeing Lisa's critical condition, Athena decisively ordered Matthew to get the first aid kit. At this moment, the little girl who witnessed her mother being shot was terrified. To make matters worse, Lisa suddenly lost consciousness. Matthew, who was in a panic, couldn't even find the respirator. Athena had no choice but to perform first aid herself, doing CPR while shouting, "For your child, you have to hold on." After a tense rescue, Lisa finally regained her breathing. Afterward, Matthew was fired by the police department for negligent injury. The smoke from the street enforcement had not yet dissipated when another life-threatening kidnapping case quietly unfolded. The baby had just been born when his father, Michael, kidnapped him. To prevent the baby from starving, he decided to kidnap a woman to act as a wet nurse. He quickly set his sights on Lisa. Half an hour passed, and the girl still hadn't seen her mother. A kind passerby approached to ask about her and discovered that the mother was missing. She immediately called the police for help. At the same time, Michael was driving with the baby at full speed. Suddenly, a police car approached from the opposite direction, causing him to panic and draw his gun. Fortunately, the police car sped past without stopping. Just as Michael relaxed, the baby in the backseat started crying again. As he turned to comfort the baby, he collided with a police car at the intersection. The officers climbed out and immediately called for an ambulance. No one knew there was a kidnapper in the car. The kind officer struggled to get up and asked Michael if he was injured. Michael secretly reached for his gun, preparing to act. At that moment, firefighters arrived at the scene. Michael hurriedly climbed out of the car, picked up the baby, and tried to run away. Firefighter Buck saw the injured Michael and asked if he needed help, but his kindness was met with Michael's harsh refusal. Han immediately sensed something was wrong. No father would ignore the safety of his child at such a moment. Han pretended to approach and comfort the baby. Mike suddenly dropped the baby and ran away. Buck immediately gave chase. Just as he was about to escape, Officer Athena appeared in time to block his path. Buck tackled Mike to the ground and arrested him. Athena told Buck to check the trunk, where they found the kidnapped Lisa. The police investigation later found Mike's injured wife Anna in the hospital. She said Mike had a history of severe violence. Mike had beaten Anna and fled with the baby. Anna was extremely worried about the child's safety. At that moment, the captain appeared holding the baby. Anna was overjoyed to see her child. With her husband in prison for kidnapping, Anna and the baby would face a new life. However, The rescue of life never stops. Jack accidentally slipped and landed on an inflatable valve. He quickly inflated like a balloon as gas rushed into his stomach. The boss immediately called for emergency services, and the fire department rushed to the scene. Although the boss turned off the air pump, no one dared to move him. The captain ordered everyone to lift Jack down, but his condition was critical. There was too much gas in his body, his breathing was weak, and his heart rate was accelerating. If the gas wasn't released, his organs might fail. Buck prepared to insert a nasal tube for oxygen and administer medication, but due to the high internal pressure, Jack's skin was as hard as rubber, making it impossible to insert the needle. Even the oxygen tube was pushed out by the gas. As Jack's condition grew increasingly critical, Henrietta diagnosed it as tension pneumothorax. The captain decided to directly insert a tube to release the air, with Buck assisting. Eddie carefully cut open his shirt and skillfully inserted the needle. As a former medic, he handled the situation cleanly and efficiently. As the needle was inserted, the gas quickly escaped. Jack visibly lost weight and soon opened his eyes, out of danger. Everyone finally breathed a sigh of relief, but he was still passing gas non-stop, as if complaining about his ordeal. On the other side of the street, a red car crashed into the construction site. In the next second, the entire car was blown into the air. The car flipped 2.5 times in the air, and a cloud of water mixed with the explosion spread out. The scene was instantly in chaos. The vehicle crashed heavily to the ground and was immediately engulfed in flames. Lisa was caught up in the sudden accident and the workers quickly called 911 for help. When the fire department arrived, they were stunned by the scene. The construction supervisor explained that they were conducting a pipeline pressure test. Unexpectedly, the sewer pipe exploded, even blowing away passing vehicles. The driver responsible for the accident had already fled the scene, but 2 people were trapped inside the black sedan. The scene was in complete chaos, with the black sedan sandwiched between 2 other vehicles. Captain Bobby immediately ordered a rescue operation. The firefighters could only enter through the sunroof, but this also caused water to rush into the car. Buck and Eddie worked together to move the rocks blocking the sunroof. Buck told the trapped passengers to close their eyes, then smashed the window with a hammer. Water gushed out, buying time for the rescue. However, the female passenger's thigh was stuck under the steering wheel, and she couldn't move. Blood kept flowing from the wound. Eddie reported the situation while instructing the male passenger to evacuate first. Although her boyfriend Jack was reluctant to leave his girlfriend behind, he had no choice but to trust the firefighters. Eddie quickly climbed into the car and used a pair of cutters to cut the seatbelt to stop the bleeding. Team member Han quickly connected the car to the fire truck with a tow rope outside. At Bobby's command, the car was forcibly pulled out of the wreckage. When the door opened, water gushed out. The paramedic checked the female passenger and found that her artery was unharmed. When the female passenger was successfully rescued, cheers erupted at the scene. This accident serves as a reminder to everyone: never enter construction zones without authorization. At that moment, a boy named Jack was hiding in the wardrobe, calling the police and saying his father was trying to kill him. Meanwhile, his father was searching the house with a baseball bat. The dispatcher heard the father's angry shouts on the phone and looked confused. She asked Jack what had happened. Jack said he was sleeping when his father suddenly dragged him out of bed and beat him. In a panic, he used a desk lamp to fight back and hid. Just then, the dispatcher heard the father shout, "Thief!" Jack said his father didn't seem to recognize him. The dispatcher suspected Jack's father might have a mental illness, but after checking records, her colleagues found no history of mental illness. Jack also denied her suspicion. Jack was instructed by the operator to hide in a locked room, so Jack quickly hid in the bathroom, locked the door, and blocked it with a table. But his father began to violently bang on the door. The operator told Jack to find a weapon to defend himself. Jack found scissors in a drawer but couldn't bring himself to use them. At that moment, a colleague found crucial information about Jack's father. It turned out that last week, Jack's parents had been in a car accident. His mother had died on the spot, and his father had survived. The firefighter immediately asked Jack if his father had been injured in the head during the accident. Jack replied that he had suffered a concussion. The operator immediately diagnosed him with Capgras syndrome and instructed Jack to hide in the bathtub, pull the curtain, and not be seen. At the same time, the operator called Jack's father and connected the father and son on the call.
Dad?
Duncan, is that you, son?
Yeah, Dad, it's me.
Upon hearing his son's voice, the father suddenly calmed down. The dispatcher then explained everything to him. It turned out that the head injury had caused cognitive impairment, which, combined with the shock of losing his wife, triggered the condition. Patients believe that their loved ones have been replaced but can recognize them by their voices, so hearing a familiar voice helps them escape the hallucinations. Upon learning the truth, the father was filled with regret. Unable to believe he had nearly killed his son, he put down the baseball bat, and his son emerged from the bathroom. At that moment, sirens sounded. Jack cried out to the operator not to let the police arrest his father. "Don't worry, sweetheart. Your father needs treatment, not punishment. Everything will be okay." "Thank you." "You're welcome. It's our duty," the operator replied gently.